this like global, let's just pop everything approach, like scientifically, based on the best chiropractic research that I've seen, is not validated at all. And it's a bummer because then there's people like me who like, you look at it and it's like, that doesn't look cool on camera at all. But I can tell you when a kid has had seizures their entire life and they stop having seizures, like that's pretty cool.
All right. Welcome back to Beyond Adjustments podcast. I'm your host, Amin Saeed, and today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to for a while because not only is this a powerful topic, but Dr. Daniel has honestly become a really good friend of mine. It'd be weird if he didn't think so, but don't tell him. Anyway, every time we talk, it turns into one of those conversations where you walk away like, yeah, we needed that. And now here's where we're going today, right? So most people don't struggle because they don't have enough, right? If anything, it's the opposite. They're overloaded, flooded, constantly consuming more information, more techniques, more strategies, and somewhere in all of that, they lose the basics. They lose the fundamentals. So today we're stripping it all back. Communication, technique, confidence, and where people start overcomplicating something that should actually be simple. But before we jump in, quick shout out to Clear Cut Podcasting. And honestly, they're a perfect example of what we're talking about today because they took something that's usually overcomplicated and made it simple. I show up, I record, they handle everything else. The editing, the production, the publishing, all in one place. No juggling tools, no back-end headaches, which lets me focus on conversations like this instead of pretending I know how to fix audio levels, which I really don't. Even though I'm a musician, I have no idea what I'm doing. So if you've been thinking about starting a podcast or simplifying the one you already have, go check them out. All right, let's get into it. Dr. Daniel in the house, sir. Welcome back. What is this, number 3 for you?
I think so. Yeah, I think number 3. Thanks for having me, man. I'm always just
Absolutely.
I love what we've kind of built and had some, offline conversations. So always honored to do this with you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, seriously, for making the time. Our viewers love you, by the way. So we're gonna keep giving them that good content, and we'll keep it going.
Yeah, let's go.
So I appreciate you, man. All right. So before anyone panics, no, we're not doing a deep dive into the eschatology of the return of Christ today, although that is what I messaged Dr. Daniel with. And literally without skipping a beat, the guy's like, let's go, like, let's do this. So, but although if this episode really goes off the rails, we might, accidentally end up there. Anyway, today, though, we're talking about something maybe as controversial at times in chiropractic and business, probably really the boring basics is what we're going to talk about a little bit. Because if we're honest, most chiropractors, business owners in general, really aren't struggling because they don't know enough. I think they're struggling because they skip the fundamentals, really. Dr. Daniel, again, I'm really excited about this conversation because you're someone who's seen the kind of the clinical side, the business side, the real life side, the family, the pressure, expectations, like all of it. And I want to start there, really. So let's touch on the practice side of things. So in practice, right, I see personally, at least from the outside looking in, I see a lot of chiropractors kind of overanalyzing technique. They're chasing that perfection. They're chasing the newest modality. Instead of doing the simple stuff consistently, right? Like clear exams, clear care plans, clear communication. Geez, clear communication, and then you got patients. They don't walk away saying, wow, I wish that adjustment had a cooler name. they, they walk away like, they're confused. They're unsure. They're convinced. But tell me this, like, where do you see chiropractors overcomplicating things? Like the most really, like instead of just kind of mastering the basics?
I think there's a couple of places, and you hit both of them. Is I'm big on communication, always have been. Even in Cairo school, I was like, I just, I came from a background where like my dad did not understand in his brain how I could quit a job that I was good at and going to get promotions in and go do something completely new and completely different and like take the risk to do it, sell off everything we had. So like to me, I always wanted to know like how could I explain this so clearly that my dad would understand it. And I think communication is one of those places where a lot of chiros just like think I'll figure it out later. And I've just been obsessed with this. So I think communication is one for sure. And we can dive more into that on like a tactical level if you want to. But I think, yeah, I think you hit it too when you talked about the technique piece of it is like, I think technique's important, but nobody cares what it's called. They just want to see a result from it.
Yes.
This is the problem that I really see with people is like, especially students in school, they'll spend their entire 3 years in school plus learning technique. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but this is the issue that I see. They get out into the world and it's like nobody cares because they can't explain it. And nobody cares because they can't communicate it. So then they have this like really cool looking Instagram reel worthy technique that nobody gives crap about. And I'm like, dude, you gotta have both of those things, which are so fundamental. And I think the communication is arguably more important than the adjustment in some ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, so true. And maybe we do get down to kind of the practical sense and cover a little bit tactically what that looks like. But before we do, what fundamentals do you think are really like the non-negotiables, right? No matter what technique someone practices.
You obviously got to be able to do a good exam. So, and I think that plays into like, you got to know where you're going to adjust somebody. And so, like, I take a very brain based approach. So, we're like measuring different lobes of the brain and doing some cool testing. And like, while I'm biased, and I would say that's the only way to do it, it's you just one, it's confidence first and foremost, but then two, being able to have some semblance of like, all right, do you know what to do with this person that definitively is going to get them a good result and outcome? And from there, man, like it doesn't have to get complicated beyond that. Like people ask me all the time when they see the arthro stem, they're like, that's it. I have patients who ask me like, that's it. But because I'm so confident and like I know exactly what their body needed through the analysis that I do, it doesn't have to look cool. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
feel cool. It doesn't have to sound cool with a big, huge pop and a crack that gets millions of views on Insta.
Don't get me started.
So like, you know what I mean? It's I think it's really just those things. It's like, do you have a way to definitively say, this is what this person's body needs? And I'm going to make a clear distinction with you only because I've had the opportunity, which is so cool to have a couple of these conversations with you. I think that a lot of times we go in, especially in school, we're taught like, when you see these things, this is what you
Mhm.
do to that person.
Mhm.
And that's how the medical profession is. They're like, when you see these symptoms, that you prescribe this medication. And I think getting really good at chiro is going, what is this person's body telling me that it needs? And being able to figure that out and then only deliver what that person's body needs. And I think that's a huge distinction. So then we're getting to an individual, like literally individualized care.
Yeah, no, that's good. Um, so let's do that then. Let's go back. What does boring look like? What does mastering the basics look like tactically?
If we talk about specific to technique, I
Mhm.
mean, dude, it really gets down to like the line of drive that you're using, what your indicators are that you could say unequivocally every time, this is what this person's body's showing me. Um, and what I find especially is like it's easy because you get in this groove where you get good at it. And then the hard part is like, now let me go learn whatever other therapy. And then that takes away from like becoming that 10,000 hour master of the craft of just doing the thing until you're literally so good at it that you have the confidence and be able to communicate it as well. So I really think
Yeah.
comes down to those two things is like not necessarily the palpation, but like the line of drive that you have, the knowing that you know that when you put that input into their body will be able to use it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well, what does it look like from a communication perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have spent a ton, I spent 8 years committed to like, how do we communicate a message to somebody that's like completely outside of the box of anything they've ever heard before in a short enough time frame that they're not bored and like think you're crazy or trying to spit too much science at them. And so for me, the number one thing is telling people the truth. Like that's what it has always boiled down to me. So I'm not talking half truths. I'm not talking it, like we just explain it this way because it's easy to explain that way. Um, and if you want me to, I will, but I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole. But I think the thing is that telling someone the truth about how their body works and getting them to go, how come nobody's ever told me that before? So what does that require on like a tactical level? Well, one, it requires a confidence and certainty that you know the science, but then that you can take that science and effectively communicate it in a way that like speaks directly to someone's pain point. That for me in my office is never just back pain or neck pain, like literally never ever. So we're talking like third degree pains. And then having an understanding that we're not trying to sell somebody on chiropractic. Like what you're really trying to sell them on is the fact that their body can heal. And I think that so often it's easy to be like, chiropractic's so great and the body knows how to heal itself and all this stuff. But you got to remember, like, you're sitting in front of a person. And so much of what I've experienced, even this week, dude, I could share some crazy stories. It's like my unequivocal dedication to telling someone the truth and letting them know that their body's capable of healing outside of like being obsessed with chiropractic. It's not about chiropractic. It's about the person. Nobody, they don't care about chiropractic. They want to know, how can you help me? And when you can like nail that so well, dude, it makes it undeniable that people will see you and stick with you
Yeah.
and refer to you and all the other stuff
Sure.
that
No,
everybody wants to
absolutely.
get without doing the work.
Yeah. So I want to tie a couple things together, right?
Yeah.
So you made a comment earlier, right? You're talking about confidence, you're talking about, clear communication, we're talking about just all this stuff tactically, but you made a comment earlier about um the the cracks and the pops on social media. And
Yep.
and I said, don't get me started, right? But yeah, I want to go back to that for a second because I think it's important. Because I think that's diluted or made it even harder for chiropractors to really practice the way they need to. Listen, I'm all for that. You guys want views on Instagram. I get it, right? You're trying to get a following. It's all power to you. But let's not lose the message, is my opinion, right? And I think we do at times, and it becomes this game, right? Oh, that was a good crack. Oh, great. Okay, that's extra bubbles coming. Come on. Like let's get down to the science. Let's focus more on what you're talking about. Let's talk about actually convincing people that our bodies are designed the way they are on purpose and that they're designed to heal themselves, but we have to get them into a place that where, you know, it needs to function properly in order to do that. So let's get back to that kind of basic, right? So my question to you there is, do you think social media has made chiropractors feel like they need to be more complex, right? To be taken seriously?
I mean, dude, I think about this all the time and it like, I know this is a problem. I have friends who are going to message me after they watch this episode and they're going to be like, dude, why you got to hate on my technique like that? Like, I know they're going to do it. So like, I'm going to say for the record, like I am not hating on it. I just think there's a better way. So like the Y strap would be one of those. Like somebody lays down.
Mm,
I'm like, how do you know what's moving and what's
that
not?
scares the crap out of me. Yeah.
So that's one thing. And again, dude, like I'm not trying to be a hater because I see that people can get results with it. I've seen people who've had terrible results with it. And like time and time again in my practice is what I see is like we just get consistently good results. So that would be one example. Or the other is like, all right, I got to go now learn a technique where I stand on the table and I like cup somebody's head and I'm like straddling them and I'm like rubbing up against their shoulder and they're like heads in mine and I'm breathing on them and like to do this adjustment. And I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure that we don't need the theatrics.
Yeah.
And so like, even though I think so that's where social media comes in really is like, we don't need the theatrics. What we need is to just show people that like, hey, you can get really, really good results And it's just become this like watered down, like the crack is the thing,
Yeah.
which we know, like, dude, all of Heidi's research points to like that's only true sometimes.
Mhm.
And there are indicators that go with when you adjust a certain segment and that segment needs it based on her criteria. That's the only time we get the input to the frontal cortex that dampens the N30 amplitude. So like this like
Interesting.
global, let's just pop everything approach, like scientifically based on the best chiropractic research that I've seen is not validated at all.
Mhm.
And it's a
Yeah.
bummer because then there's people like me who like you look at it and it's like that doesn't look cool on camera at all. But I
Right.
can tell you when a kid has had seizures their entire life and they stop having seizures, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know
100%.
what I mean?
All right. Quick pause here because what we're talking about right now actually ties perfectly into this. We've been talking about how people overcomplicate things. They chase the next big thing instead of really mastering what actually works. And I see this all the time with business owners, especially when it comes to marketing. Everyone is chasing the ads, they're chasing the funnels, the strategies, but they're missing the most basic thing: visibility. So if someone's searching for what you do in your area and you don't show up, nothing else matters. That's why we believe so much in the AI Local Boost platform, who, by the way, is the sponsor of this episode, hence why I'm speaking about them. But it handles your Google business profile, the posts, the reviews, the Q&A, the images, all optimized so Google actually understands your business and shows you to the right people. So there's no guessing, there's no overcomplicating it, just doing the fundamentals really, really well. And honestly, that's kind of the theme of this entire episode. So if you want to fix your visibility without adding more chaos, check out AI Local Boost. All right, I'm done. Back to the episode. Have you ever crossed paths with Dr. Justin Dick?
Hmm.
So he's actually my kid's specialist. He's a chiropractor up in Huntersville, North Carolina, clear life scoliosis. He's the one that essentially fixed my kids. Um, uh, but he used to have he used to have epileptic or seizures, I should say, for most of his life. And then this one, I think this either one doctor or one type of adjustment or something like that literally stopped his seizures, like in his adult years. So that's real. Like that's a result that you lean in on, right? That let's look at those type of case studies and see why that happened and do more of that, right? So yeah, I'm with you. So uh, and I see you as a seasoned chiropractor, honestly. You might need a couple more years under your belt, either that or you just have a baby face. But what's what would you say one thing that you see seasoned chiropractors do really well that younger docs are, they're overlooking?
I mean, dude, I think the biggest thing is the OGs are like, they just, especially the ones who I know, they're so like, they get the philosophy that the body knows how to heal itself. And I think that, and there's a lot of places, dude, we could talk about the Chiro schools and we could talk about other things, but like the OGs still stand on that principle. That is the thing that sets us apart. And so like it's hard because you look at like, we're kind of talking about social media and joking around a little bit about like the pop is a cool thing to see and millions of views. But dude, that waters it down so much into like neck pain, back pain, headaches. And when we see these life epilepsy goes away, I mean, dude, you name the miracles that roll through our office. Like, I think that a lot of times are now, especially standard of care for back pain, and all the chiros are like, yeah, we're the standard of care before meds. And it's like, we just got thrown more in the neck pain, back pain, headaches category and not for, don't go to a chiro for anything else. And so like a lot of the things that I think that we see on social media and new chiros probably get taught in school is we're the standard of care for like this one lane of pain. And there's a whole other world that the OGs remember. And they're like, it's not about fixing someone's back pain. It's not about fixing someone's headaches. It's about allowing the body to heal itself the way God designed it. And when we wake up the nervous system, literally miracles are possible.
Mm, amen, man. That's
So
awesome.
I just love that, dude. And it's like it could be easy to get pushed out of you when you have
Yeah.
people show up to you every day and say like, "Oh, can you just fix my back?" Because that's what they think most chiros do.
Yeah.
But the OGs just stand on the principle like it's not about that. It's about healing capacity of the body. It's not about your pain. It's not about your symptoms. And I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Which brings us back to that boring basics, right? The
Yeah.
fundamentals. And I think what's interesting is that this same kind of pattern uh, shows up outside of the clinic too. So I want to touch on that a little bit. You know, we do this in family life all the time, right? We optimize schedules, apps, calendars, routines. Everything is color coded, right? Heck, I'm right now we're building an app that's going to help families, coordinate and all that. Like it's all about that, right? And but somehow we still miss the simple stuff like being present, like keeping promises, protecting dinner time like it's sacred, right? So, have you noticed that? And without obviously calling anybody out, we're not trying to bash anyone here. We're all imperfect. We all need work. I am the first person in line there. But have you noticed that the same people, you know, who overcomplicate practice uh, tend to overcomplicate life, like at home or outside of the practice?
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, dude, like I could work with somebody who's like, "Hey, I'm really struggling, like my relationship with my wife or my kids or whatever," right? And I can look at and I can just be like, "All right, they know what their problem is in business, but then they want to do a million other things instead of solve
Yeah.
that problem." And so then, like, but that same thing will show up in the home. And I'll give you an example here in a second where, like, they're like, well, I don't have any connection with my wife. And it's like, well, when's the last time you took her on a date night? And they think that it needs to be like the, like some big fancy, like everything's got to be scheduled out spectacle. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure she probably doesn't care. Like, you could probably just get a babysitter and like sit upstairs in your bedroom, watch a movie together and chat and get the same thing as like a fancy dinner plus going to doing whatever other 10 things. It just gets way overcomplicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To give you an example, I had a guy who he's like struggling with basically he's like, I need more I need more leads inside of my practice. And I'm like, why do you need more leads, dude? Like, how many new people do you get? And he's like, I'm getting, I don't know, it was like 50 or 60 a month or something like that. I was like, dude, you don't have a leads problem, bro. You have a keeping your leads problem.
Hmm.
And he's like, yeah, but if I did more marketing, then more people would stay. And I'm like, no, you're like solving for the wrong thing. So the same thing, I see this all the time. It'll carry over to home. So it'll be like, well, I need more, I need more time with my daughter, but I got to work on my business more. And so then they like end up neglecting both. And I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure if you just gave up stuff and like stayed really committed to, like you asked me at the beginning, on the simple things of
Hmm.
just like sitting down and reading to your kid,
Yep.
then like all the other stuff that you thought you needed to do, you would realize is not important or doesn't matter. And dude, there's so many examples of that. So many.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that simplicity, of so you're saying, give up stuff or whatever. I think where we get that wrong is we have to do all of this setting up and planning and I want to do I want to work out. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to do this. And then you feel like you have to kind of like line all these things up before you can actually implement. And that's nowhere close to the truth. Like not even a smidge because honestly, if I just decided right now to drop this podcast and go hang out with my daughter, who's not home yet, but and go hang out with my daughter right now, that would be the better decision in my opinion. But but the point I'm making is I don't have to say, okay, hey, all right, every Tuesday, 5 o'clock, we're gonna no, dude, just do it. Just stop. Just just do it. Like simplify, right? And what we need to learn, and tell me if you agree with this, is is how to get back to that simplistic mindset, how to be more consistent, right? Because that will apply not only to your business but in family life, right? And I think that actually works. What's your thought?
So, like, what's interesting is how one thing in one area of life, like if we look at business and then we look at family, is like two separate domains. A lot of times, what people do or struggle with in business is just a reflection of where that's something that shows up everywhere. So, another example, there's a guy I was coaching one time, and he's like, dude, he's like, I can't, he's like, I got to stop working with you. And this is after like 12 weeks, and he had missed like 3 or 4 of the weeks, right? So, and he's like, I'm not going to work with you. He's like, like my clients aren't sticking with me. They're not sticking around long enough. And he's like, I can't afford to like keep working with you. So I'm like, okay, but like you're doing the exact thing that you don't want your clients to do, which is giving up early and not getting a result and not showing up. So like that thing that he struggled with at business, dude, is a direct reflection of how he shows up at home too.
Wow.
So it's like, well, my daughter doesn't want to play with me, or my wife doesn't want to spend time with me, or dude, there's so many scenarios we get
Yeah.
into. But I'm like,
Yeah.
it's because you show up like that everywhere. Like you
Yeah.
only show up when it's convenient. And you talk
Yeah.
about, dude, we don't talk about simplistic. The one thing, non-negotiable, that I do with my daughter, unless I am traveling, I put her to bed every single night.
Good for you.
And I'm not bragging, dude. I'm just saying it's like one of those things that she knows no matter what, daddy's putting me to bed. Daddy's putting me to bed.
How old is she, if you don't mind me asking?
She's 6.
Yeah, hold on to that, man, because
Yeah.
that's what we did. My wife and I, we just literally consistently every night it was one of us, both of us, either a story, prayer, whatever at night, so they
Yep.
knew, right? That goes away, my friend, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know it will, but it's just like, but at least
hold
it's
on to it
been
as long as you can.
one of those consistent things, dude, where it's like I'm not gonna stay up and work late. I will pause whatever I'm doing. I'm
Yeah.
putting her to bed.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And
Yep.
and so I think it's funny too because families don't need, that perfection. Um, Patients don't need perfection either, really. I think in both scenarios, clarity, right? Simplicity, consistency, right? I think that's key. Like, let's be consistent. Okay, so and this is where I think, with some of the examples that you gave, I think it's where burnout creeps in too, right? And then that's where boundaries come in as well, right? Not always because we're working too much, but there's also a scenario a lot of the times where we're never actually off, right? Clinic conversations at dinner, the phone buzzing at 9:30 p.m. I did not text you at night the other day at all. I was not in bed and I did not say let's reschedule. That didn't happen. Okay, pause. We're going to pause it right here. Sorry, because this conversation started to go somewhere deeper than just technique. We started getting into mindset, communication, and honestly, how a lot of this spills over into life outside the practice too, right? And part 2, we go even further. We get into confidence, second guessing, burnout, boundaries, all the stuff nobody really prepares you for, right? And I promise you, some of that hits a little too close to home in a good way. I promise. So if part 1 resonated with you, part 2 is where it really connects, guys. So I hope to see you there, but make sure you go and check that out. Well, if you're listening to this before it drops, wait for it to drop and then check it out. And if you're not subscribed yet, now would be a great time to fix that. Just literally go, you're done. All right. I'll see you guys in part 2.